Chapter 9. Bilbo acted quickly and I felt some pride. He told the trolls about a terrible worms infestation that sickened all the dwarves. The dwarves chimed in, boasting about the size of the parasites in their bodies. I waited impatiently for a few moments longer, trying to come up with something I could do to help. This would be much easier if they didn't assume I couldn't fight because I was a lady. I would have to prove them wrong, show them the feisty side of myself. Before I could work up the courage to try and fight the trolls myself, Gandalf emerged from the forest. He put a finger to his lips and stepped out on a large rock that was shadowing the trolls from the rising sun. "The dawn will take you all," he shouted. The trolls turned around and squinted at the wizard. They turned to each other, confused, most likely trying to figure out what Gandalf was doing. "Who's that?" one of the trolls asked. "No idea," the second one said. "Can we eat him too?" the third one chimed in. With that, Gandalf plunged his staff into the rock's surface, cracking it in half. The trolls yelped in pain as they dried out and turned to stone. The company cheered and laughed. I ran out of my hiding spot and over to Bilbo. I helped him out of the bag he was trapped in and gave him a hug. My relief washed over me as he gave me some reassurance that he was okay. "I thought I lost you," I told him, pulling away to look into his eyes. "It's going to take more than that to get rid of me, my dear sister." He smiled at me. "They can't have moved in daylight," Gandalf said, hitting one of the trolls with his staff. It echoed and Gandalf smiled in satisfaction. "There must be a cave nearby," Thorin stated. "I will go look ahead. Take Yen with you. She has an eye for these sorts of things," Gandalf told him. He went to protest, but a stern look from Gandalf shut him up. I followed him into the forest, keeping some distance between us. The air was full of tension, but my new fear of the dwarf stopped me from engaging in any conversation that didn't include the cave. "So what should I be looking for?" I asked him. "A cave," he responded coldly. I stared at the large hole in the ground in front of me. Seemed cavey. "Would it be big?" I asked. "Very big." "Would it look to be filled with riches and treasures?" "Most likely. Trolls are known to be horrendous hoarders," Thorin told me. "So like this?" I asked, pointing in front of me. Thorin rushed over to my side. He leaned towards the cave and pulled back his head in disgust. I didn't blame him. The smell was enough to spoil even a dragon's appetite. "Yes. Exactly like this," he told me, a hint of amusement in his voice. He patted my shoulder, smiling, and for a moment it was like we were friends. I stifled my own smile as he called the others over. The dwarves searched the cave while I waited outside. According to them, there were riches beyond one's wildest dreams in the halls of Eber, and I figured I would rather get gold that doesn't reek of troll. A few minutes later the dwarves filed out of the cave. "Here," Thorin said, handing me a blade. "I don't know what to do with this," I admitted. "Pretend it's that tree branch you told me about when I first met you," he said, smirking. "Thank you," I said awkwardly. A crack in the forest grabbed our attention. "Something's coming, everyone stay together," Thorin called. The dwarves rushed into a circle as an older man on a sled pulled by oversized rabbits tore through the woods. "Thieves! Fire! Murder!" he screamed. We all halted in our tracks. Thieves in these woods? Bilbo and I hadn't stolen anything yet, so it couldn't have been us. "Radagast. It's Radagast the Brown," Gandalf told us, sighing in relief as he approached the smaller wizard slowly. "What on earth are you doing here?" Gandalf asked him, placing a hand on the wizard's shoulder. "I was looking for you, Gandalf. Something's wrong. Something is terribly wrong," he said, his voice trembling. "Yes?" Gandalf questioned. "The Greenwood is sick, Gandalf. A darkness has fallen over it. Nothing grows anymore. Well, nothing good. The air is foul, But worse are the webs. There are spiders, Gandalf. Giant ones. Some kind of spawn of Ungoliant, or I'm not a wizard. I followed their trail. They came from Dol Guldur. He told Gandalf, voice hushed. Dol Guldur? But the old fortress is abandoned. Gandalf said, worried. I looked over at Bilbo with a nervous expression on my face. He met my eye. I didn't sign up for giant spiders and haunted fortresses. I agreed to a dragon, and even that seemed like a stretch. Before I was able to ask any questions, something howled in the distance, startling us all. Was that a wolf? Are there wolves out there? Bilbo asked, his voice shaking. Wolves? No. That's no wolf. Boffer said, drawing his sword and instructing me to do the same. We huddled under a large overhanging rock, waiting for whatever this animal was. I could see Keely growing impatient beside me. His eyes were filled with excitement. He was excited to kill. Keely sprang out from under the rock and shot the beast in the neck, causing it to fall down before Thorin attacked it with his sword. It looked similar to a wolf but much larger and much more deadly. Warg scouts. Which means an orc pack is not far behind. Thorin shouted at the group. Orc pack? I questioned. They come in packs? You are being hunted, Thorin Oakenshield. Who did you tell about your quest beyond your kin? Gandalf shouted at Thorin. No one. He responded confidently. Who did you tell? Gandalf yelled again, grabbing the dwarf's shoulders. No one. He responded, his voice raised to an equal level. He took a breath before looking back at Gandalf. I swear. We have to get out of here. Dwyn said. We can't. We have no ponies. They bolted. Ora told us, looking around. I'll draw them off. Radagast told us, his eyes gleaming with excitement. These are Gundabad wargs. They will outrun you. Gandalf told him. These are Rosgobel rabbits. I'd like to see them try. He raced off, leaving the rest of us alone. I looked between Gandalf and Thorin, hoping for some guidance. They were locked in an intense stare-off, and I was beginning to think Thorin used aggressive eye contact as a form of intimidation. It didn't appear to work on the wizard, who, after realizing Thorin had no plan, turned to the group quickly. Follow me. Quickly and quietly. Gandalf told us and started running towards the path Radagast had unintentionally created. After a brief moment of hesitation, Thorin ran after him and the rest of us followed. The forest seemed endless, but I was hoping this was giving Radagast enough time to create some distance between ourselves and the orcs. I had yet to see an orc, had no idea what to expect, and didn't necessarily feel like finding out anytime soon. After about 25 minutes of sprinting, we reached a clearing. I could see Radagast on his sled being chased by a group of the large wolf beasts, and decided maybe I didn't want to be a part of this group anymore. Move quickly now. Gandalf whispered, running into the clearing. Stay together. Thorin piped in after a few minutes. We moved swiftly, doing our best to stay undetected. I had zero idea where we were going, but made sure to keep a hold on Bilbo so we didn't separate. There was no end to the field, and I was just about accepting the fact that I was going to be eaten by giant wolves when I ran into Thorin. He looked down at me in frustration, but it was his own fault for stopping. Where's Gandalf? Philly called out. We all looked around, but he was nowhere to be seen. How could we have misplaced a 6-foot wizard with a pointy hat? He's abandoned us. Dwyn said angrily. Hold your ground. Thorin shouted as the orcs drew in closer. We created a circle, and while I was fine with being on the ring of the circle, I did not protest when Thorin gently pushing me inside the circle. I was starting to grow on him, I could tell. This way, you fools. Gandalf called from behind us. We all jumped and looked around for him. His head darted up again, and Thorin moved us all towards him, where a hidden passage was very intelligently placed. One by one each member of the company slipped into the passage. Go. Go. Go! Thorin shouted. Gandalf counted us off as we dropped into the tunnel. Keely was last and I knew he was trying to get some more kills. This worried me about the youngest dwarf. Something about kill orcs excited him too much. Finally Thorin slipped into the tunnel and we all waited quietly for the orcs to go away. There was a loud horn and I glanced up at Gandalf, who was avoiding eye contact with the leader of our company. I wasn't sure what this horn symbolized, but Thorin didn't like it and Gandalf must have known this. Dwyn split from the group alongside Oin to check out the winding path through the passage. I cannot see where the path leads. Do we follow it or not? Dwyn yelled from up ahead. Follow it, of course. Buffer yelled back. I think that would be wise. Gandalf said quietly to himself. Hey, are you okay? Buffer asked me as we started walking. I'm a little shaken up, but I'm fine. I respond with a smile. What about you? Oh, don't worry about me, Miss Baggins. I know how to handle myself out there. He smiled at me. Come on, Buffer, I think we are close enough for you to just call me YN. I said cheerfully. He shook his head, insisting on remaining formal. I couldn't help but feel that the dwarves were worried about growing attached to Bilbo, and I almost as if they were afraid we wouldn't make it. Besides, I'm not the one to be worrying about. Thorin has taken quite an interest in you, lass, he said, winking at me. Thorin? No. Trust me, I heard what you said the first time, but after that argument back at the farmhouse, I can assure you he doesn't like me. I said softly. I wouldn't read too much into that. Give him a chance and he'll come around. Buffer told me. I sighed softly, looking at the brown-haired dwarf in front of me. He was the only one of the company who seemed to dislike me, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out why. I was helping him. If anything, I should be treated like royalty. The path started to lighten and I could see an exit up ahead. The Valley of Imladris. In the common tongue, it's known by another name. I heard Gandalf tell the group. I couldn't believe my eyes. This is the town I had been hearing stories about since I was just a girl. My heart skipped a beat. Rivendell, I said happily.
I'm glad you enjoyed that video/gameplay. Just remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Until next time, goodbye!